Jason Rzucidlo, reporting for AmericaJR.com, and I'm being joined by filmmaker Lynn Novick. How are you today?
I'm great, thank you, Jason. Great to be here.
Very good. So let's start by giving me some highlights of the new documentary series, The Vietnam War.
Well, the film is 10 parts, 18 hours. It will air on PBS in September. And what we've tried to do is tell the story of this extraordinarily traumatic and important event through the eyes of ordinary people who lived through it. And we interviewed 100 people. You meet 80 different people in the film, and they come from all walks of life and all backgrounds, American and Vietnamese. So you get to know people who fought in the war, Marines and Army soldiers and grunts and pilots and just every kind of military experience you can imagine. And you also get to know people who protested the war here at home and people whose families were split apart by it. And you even get to know some people who decided to go to Canada because they thought the war was wrong. And then in Vietnam, you get to know people who were civilians and who were soldiers on the side that won the war, and also the people who lost the war. So it's really an epic story of a really traumatic and tragic event.
Okay. Now, what was it like working with Ken Burns once again?
Well, Ken and I have been working together since 1989. So that's really been the greatest collaboration of my professional life. We have a wonderful way, I think, of working together to create these big epic stories. And Ken is extraordinarily generous. He's very, very gifted as a storyteller. He's very open to sharing ideas and to working together. So it really is a collaboration. It's not just Ken and me. We're the directors, and we do get a lot of the credit when the films come out. But actually, we've had the privilege of working with a great writer, Jeff Ward, and an incredible producer, Sarah Botstein. And really the four of us kind of shaped this film. And every day is a conversation about what can we do to make the film better. And that's really how we've lived our lives together, working on these films for the last almost 30 years.
Oh, very good. How will it be similar or different from his past works, like The Civil War?
You know, more than 25 years ago, Ken made a film with his brother Rick about the Civil War, and they delved deeply into how it tore our country apart and really got into both the politics, why the war happened, and the large social changes that came as a result of it, and also the experiences of ordinary soldiers. But that was done, you know, mostly with historians telling you the story, because obviously there's nobody alive who can tell you about the Civil War. Here, in telling the story of the Vietnam War, Ken and I were able to get to know people who lived through it and who are here to give you their testimony. And, you know, it's different in that sense. It's much more visceral, immediate, you know, direct experience. On the other hand, you know, war is war. And you hear stories from soldiers that are the same in, you know, ancient Greece and the Crusades and the Middle Ages and World War I and World War II and Vietnam. When you go to war, you are in a place where you're possibly going to die, you're possibly going to kill somebody else, you might see your best friend die. It brings out the best and the worst in people. Some people never get over it. Some people's lives are changed for it for the better. And those things were true in the way they told the Civil War and in our film about the Vietnam War. I think what's particularly painful, though, for Americans when we think about the Vietnam War is that we are very conflicted about why we fought it, whether it could have turned out differently, whether it was worth it, and why it didn't go the way we hoped it would. And those painful questions about the Vietnam War made it a very difficult story to tell.
What are some things you learned about the Vietnam War while working on the film that you didn't know before?
You know, we get asked a lot about what did we learn, what's the most interesting thing we learned, and the answer could fill a book. Because even though I think Ken and I thought we knew a fair amount about the Vietnam War before we started working on the film, every day was humbling to discover how much we really didn't know. And it's almost impossible to know where to start with that question, because I think we didn't understand the dynamics of the political situation. We didn't understand what was happening in Hanoi, what was happening in Saigon, what was happening inside the White House, and we didn't understand how complicated it was for the people who lived through it and had to make choices about what to do. So it's almost hard to know where to start, but one of the things we learned pretty early on in our process was that Americans, our American government and the American people thought we were fighting against the North Vietnamese, who were directed by someone named Ho Chi Minh. And he was the symbol of their revolution, and he was the leader of that country. But it turns out, starting in about 1960, Ho Chi Minh was not the most powerful person in Hanoi, and he wasn't actually in charge fully. And by the time he died in 1969, he really wasn't making decisions about what was going on in North Vietnam. And that was a revelation to us.
How long did it take to go from start to finish on this series?
We started thinking about this film many, many years ago. We decided we were going to do it in 2006. So that was when we made the commitment to ourselves, we're going to make a film about the Vietnam War. For a few years, we just tried to get our arms around the story, what we're going to do, and we started raising money. And then we started producing it in 2011. So that's more than 6 years. It's been a long time.
When can viewers expect to see the series air on PBS?
So the series will air on PBS starting on Sunday, September 17th. It's 10 parts, so the first 5 episodes will be Sunday through Thursday, the 17th to the 21st. And then it starts up again on Sunday, the 24th of September for 5 nights. And then it will be repeated on PBS as a weekly series on Tuesday nights, all through October and November. It will be streamed on the PBS platform, so it will be available pretty much all fall. And it's also going to be shown in many countries all around the world.
We're here at the Cinetopia Film Festival. Is there a Detroit connection in the movie?
There is no particular connection to Detroit. We're traveling the country right now, going to every market we can to show parts of the film and to sort of raise awareness that it's coming and to start a conversation, because the reason we made the film really is because we wanted to find out what really happened in the Vietnam War, and because it's been so traumatic and difficult for us as a country to talk about, we hoped that if we could tell the story with an open mind from all sides, we might be able to engage a different kind of conversation about this story. And so we're going around the country starting that conversation, showing pieces of the film and talking about why we made it, and hoping that that will provoke, and it has, conversations between people, between veterans and between people who protested the war, within families, between children and their parents, to help this country, our country, kind of get started on what we think is a really long overdue conversation.
Any other final comments you would like people to know?
Well, I think I'll just say we're honored to be part of this film festival. You know, we are filmmakers, and we're trying to tell a story through the vehicle of a documentary film. And so our films are shown on television because that is the best way to reach the most people, and public television is the only place this film could have been made. That said, being able to show it as part of this incredible film festival with all these other great filmmakers, have people come to a movie theater and sit in a dark room and watch it on the big screen with other people and hear the sound the way we designed it, you know, through these huge speakers, and have a cinematic experience of the film, it's extraordinarily exciting for us, and it's a great privilege, and that's really special. So we're really honored to be asked to be part of this experience.
Very good. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.